Hello, welcome to TechWebDots. Today I am going to discuss how you can zip deploy your Python Fast API on the Azure function. And we will also understand what are the required folder structure that we should take care while deploying our function. The core topics I am going to cover today will be understand Azure function folder, create a zip file manually, prepare and create Python-based Azure function app on the Azure portal, and we'll do the zip deployment using PowerShell CLI commands. Okay, so let's move ahead. So very first thing, which is very important to understand before jump into the deployment part, the folder structure, right? This is the same folder structure that we have discussed in the previous session. Some file we have to create it that we haven't created yet. For example, our init.py, okay, and the another one can be our function.json, right? But see, these are optional. So what are the required ones? The very first one, main.py, that contains our fast API code. So I strongly recommend you to watch the previous session to understand better, right? We already discussed this one. Second, function app.py. This is our main entry point, or you can say this is our main file, which is for the fast API ASCII entry point for our function. Now the third requirement one is the requirement.txt file that contains all the required Python packages, right? And the last required one is the host.json file, which contains if there any route prefix we are specifying or not. So these four files are mandatory, right? If we talk about other three, the func ignore, this is optional, right? So for simple case, even you skip this func ignore file, it's completely fine. But in this func ignore file, it is just like git ignore for the repo, func ignore for the function deployment, the file, the folder that we wanted to ignore during deployment on the function. Now the next one is init.py. This is important one. We will understand a bit more about this. It is also optional for simple case. For example, the classical model, it can be empty as well, right? But it is good to have it. Why? We'll understand in a moment. The last one, the function.json file. So it is optional again for the simple case, ignore the spelling mistake. So, but it contains the metadata of your function. So if you are thinking what metadata we are talking about, I will show you all these file content in our Visual Studio editor. But before that, let's understand a bit more about the init.py quickly. So init.py files are required to make Python treat directories containing the files as packages. So in any of the directory where we have this init.py, that will be considered as package, right? What do we mean by that, right? init.py can just be an empty file, but it can also execute the initialization code for the package or set underscore all variable that we describe later. Okay, so if packages init.py file code defines a list name underscore all variable, it is taken to be the list of module names that should be imported when from package import command is encountered. We have discussed, right, how we are importing the packages, either the inbuilt one or we are creating those which are in the solution itself. So this is the point, that is what we are referring here. Now for example, the file under sound folder effects, if we have this init.py file, right, that could contain the following code. So this variable underscore all, maybe it's containing the array of echo, surround and reverse. So these three are the packages that will also be imported when we will be working with the sound effect package. So I hope you are getting the importance of init.py file, but in our case we are not doing anything, right? This is a simple case, but I just wanted to tell you what is the significance and the importance of this init.py file. Okay, so let me show you for a moment, right, about these file structure. Let me switch to Visual Studio Code. If you remember, this is the same solution. This is our function underscore app.py, the main file, right? From where we are importing what? From main file, we are importing the app object, right? And referring as FastAPI underscore app, right? This is the starting point. This is our function name, and this is our auth level. We'll discuss about auth level in our upcoming sessions. So this is one of the important file. Second is the host.json. We already discussed in the previous session. We have the blank route prefix, right? Another one is the requirement.txt that contains all the packages. Readme is optional. Main.py file, right? This one we were talking about. In this file, we have all our fast API code. Even if you don't want to use this main.py file, all this piece of code you can also put in this function underscore app.py. So we can eliminate main.py here, but it's good to maintain the separacy, right? So if you are making changes in this file, so this file will be intact, right? We are not making any changes in the entry point. So there's another one, the func ignore. Here we are specifying the FAPI virtual environment that we have created to work in this Python project. This is the folder we are talking about here, and this is our init.py file. As of now, you can see we are keeping it blank, but it's good to have it, right? Okay, so we have seen the folder structure. Let's go back to the presentation for the another important points. Okay, so next, what we need to prepare the zip and create function and zip deploy. So very first thing, what we need to do, create a zip file with minimum required files. Okay, so let's go to our solution and create a zip file. I'm here now. This is my file. If I right click over here, reveal in file explorer. Okay, so here we have, let's create a one zip file. Go to new zip folder. Let's say this is our fast API zip, right? And what are the files that we wanted to have in this file? Requirement.txt, number one, host.json, and the next one is function underscore app.py, and the main.py. These four files are required for now. Let me drag them into the zip file. Okay, so all those are added in our fast API.zip. Let me cross check if anything we are missing. Readme optional, function.json optional here. Okay, init is also optional. I will show you one more deployment that will be containing all these optional files as well. So don't worry about that, and don't worry about anything. More information you will get in the description of this video as a link of the repository. Okay, so let's verify the zip folder. So it contains all the required files. Let's go back to see the next step in the presentation. Okay, so we have created the zip. Next, prepare and create a Python based Azure function app from the Azure portal. So let me go to the Azure portal and create a Azure function app. This is our Azure portal. Let me go to resource group. Okay, it is a bit slow. So this is we are good to use it. This is our demo RG, right? And we can see as of now, we have only one storage account here. Let me create Azure function app as we discussed, right? We click on create here, and let me type here function app. Okay, I hit OK, function app. Okay, we are good to select this one. Let's click on create. Now we have multiple hosting option that we should choose. So to save amount, I will go with the consumption one, just pay as you go. Okay, and I do the selection here. Okay, select. If I click here, now let me increase the font size for better visibility. See, you can see multiple options we have to select for creating this function app: basic, storage, networking, monitoring, deployment, authentication, tagging, review, and create. So let's quickly cover those one by one. So subscription is fine, resource group is fine. So function app name, let's give it our fast API and maybe we can give like function app. Okay, yeah, it's available now. Okay, we are good. The runtime stack that we want is we are using Python. Okay, and version 3.12 is already selected. Central Canada is by default coming. We are good with that. Okay, so let's click on review plus create. So let me click on create. It's getting initializing our deployment, right? So let me pause the video for a minute. Now we have received the notification of deployment succeed. So we can just click here, go to resources, and we will be able to see our newly deployed function, right? So things are getting initialized. We can see, we can browse the function here, and the status, the runtime version is 4. This, right? We can check the configuration of it. We can go to function, deployments, we can go to the setting part, and if we click here the configuration, let's verify it picked up the right one, function app FastAPI, right? Initially we are back to back performing operations, so it is a little bit slow here. Okay, so we can see runtime version this. If I go to journal settings, we can see Python version. You can change if you think you are using the different version. So those things you can modify and do the configuration from here. Okay, and if I go to environment variables, let's see if there are any. We can see some environment variables here automatically created. One is the application inside because we enable it. One is the Azure Web Storage, the function extension, function worker time, function containerization connection setting, and website content share. So all these variables automatically created. If I go to connection strings, right? For example, if this app needs to be connected to some other services, so we can also add here the connection string. Okay, now to make this function, okay, to support the zip deployment, we have to add one app setting here. Okay, so we will simply click on here. Okay, we will give the name, it's source control management do build during deployment. This is required, and we are making its value true. Okay, and we are simply applying it. Okay, then now the value applied, and we have to apply it. Your save changes may restart if you are updating the app setting. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes, we also wanted to refresh this application so it worked well. So let's verify. So I can see now show value SCM do during deployment. So this is one of the mandatory steps for the zip deployment. So we can see now, let's go to overview. So we can see our function is ready, right? As of now there is no function is coming. Under function app tab, okay, we can browse the function here. So let's follow the next step. Let's go to the presentation. Okay, now what is the next step? So next step is to zip deployment of the Azure function on the function app using PowerShell CLI commands. So we have to do these commands in the order: the AZ login, set the tenant, set the subscription, right? Or maybe together you can do if you have better one. The cleanup command, the zip deployment, the deployment status we will check, and we will test the function. I have already performed the AZ login command and the setting the subscription and the tenant one. So we will start doing the cleanup command and the deployment command. So don't worry about the first three command. I will leave in the repo notes. So you will get it from there as a handy notes. Okay. So let me go to the PowerShell. If you try to log in, you will see the prompt something like this in the Windows PowerShell. AZ login. So you have to log into this URL. A browser will open. Yes, for me it is. So I'm going to log in on that window. I have already signed in. I will just select this account and will move ahead. After successfully login, you will see something message like this. Let's move ahead. I have successfully logged in here. Next command is, for example, if you want to delete some existing settings of the function app, then you can perform this command. So what we are doing here, we are using az function app config app settings delete, where resource group is demo rg. This is our resource group name, and the name of our function app is function app fast API, and setting name, which setting we wanted to delete, right? SCM do build during deployment. So this is one of the example. You remember we created or we added this app setting intentionally right over there, right? So this will be a reset. If I hit enter here, so we will see the response. So after command successfully ran, so you will see something like all the values of your app settings will be displayed here and its respective values. Okay. So let me first clear the screen because it contains confidential information, and let me increase the window size here once again. Now the next command will be for the deployment command. This is our deployment command. What we are saying here, az function app deployment source config zip. This is our resource group name demo rg. This is our function app name. This is our source path where zip file that we have created recently, and we are saying build remotely true. Okay, and if I hit enter, it will start preparing for the deployment. Initially, very first time, it can take few minutes. If you notice here, after a couple of seconds, we got the response, or you can say our deployment status. Deployment endpoint responded with status code 202, and if you will see this type of JSON that contains your deployment time, or it also contains your log URL, which is very important for logging, right? Your site name and the final URL on which you can also check the most recent deployments, right? All these URLs, especially the log URL and this API deployment information URL, are important to see further logs. Okay, so from here, from this Windows PowerShell, we can see it is successfully deployed. But let's go to the Azure portal and see if our application is there or not. So let me switch to the browser and see in the Azure console. Now we are on the Azure portal. If you remember, this is our function. If you go to the overview tab, right, so we should see the one function which shows it is httptrigger actually, and status is enabled, right? And if I click here on this FastAPI function, right, so it is giving me the file that we added for the deployment. Go back to your function. From the function itself, you can also click on browse and it will load your default root get method. Remember, we mentioned hello, welcome to Python FastAPI world. So we can see this message. But there is one more way, right? I mean, we can go through the function URL, but you can also check the docs, right? The way we tested locally, in the same way we can also test on this function app. So if I type here docs and hit enter, we can see all the available route under this FastAPI. Isn't it very good, right? This is the Swagger UI through which you can see, you can check, you can test all your methods available. It is the health one. We click on try it out. We just click on execute. So we see here, right? A status okay, service is running, right? In the same way, you can also run it from the URL as well. If I type here health, hit enter, see, it is working pretty well here, right? So we can parse it like this as well. So I hope it is clear now. We can see the status. We are here and our application, our function app is up and running perfectly fine. So let's go back to the presentation. Now you have seen our function is deployed successfully and it is working as expected, right? So all commands we have performed very well. So let's move to the next one. So what is next here? So function app with multiple function, right? So I haven't planned for the multiple function deployment in the same function app in this session, but there are some key points. So when you use zip deployment, any files from the existing deployment that are not found in the current zip are deleted from your function app. Means your function app will be the recent one. The most recent one is the only file that will exist in the function app deployment. Second, in case of multiple functions, split each function into its own folder. As of now, we have one direct folder that contains our all 4 required files, correct? But if you wanted to have multiple functions, so you should create 2 different folders and that will be containing the required files. If you want me to cover this in a video session, just leave in the comment box. I will create a video on the multiple function deployment in the single function app as well, right? Because there is no incremental deployment supported with the function app. So all these important notes, the commands, that whatever I have used in this session, everything you will get in the repo, okay? And I will leave the link in the description. So I hope you enjoyed the session. In the next session, I will share some key information, how you can troubleshoot, how you can see logs, live streaming or application insight, and the very important, the Kudu service and the Kudu console. Till then, bye bye, take care, and don't forget to like, subscribe and share.